Hey, everybody, we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. So when everyone logs on, we'll make sure everybody's muted and I'll get started with the Ask Dr. Eric workshop. Thanks for being on with me. We'll get started in just a second here. I got some good questions to answer, and I will also open it up in the chat to where I'll be able to answer some questions if you have any of those tonight. So we'll make sure we get into those as well. And I'll share my screen with you guys in just a couple minutes, and we'll get rolling in a few. Welcome, everybody. Everybody's still joining, so we will get started in just a few minutes here. This is the Ask Dr. Eric webinar, so lots of good questions to answer for all of you. Again, we'll get started in just a minute. Welcome, everybody. Got some more people joining. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes here. I shouldn't get cut off tonight, so I think we're good. If you're on last time, we had a couple technical difficulties. I think there were somehow two different waiting rooms that people were in, and one of them got cut off early. It was weird. So we should be good to go tonight. As soon as a few more people get on, we will get rolling shortly. If you have any questions tonight, if you'll just type those in the chat, you should have a chat bar there where you can go and type in. I'll type one to you all now. You can just join the chat and ask questions if I have anything or I talk about anything that you need questions answered for. You can go ahead and do it there. So you should be able to see when you type in the message, everyone should be able to see it as well. So if anybody wants to go ahead and fire off just a quick hello in the chat, that would be great. That's how I'll be able to answer some of these questions. So if somebody just wants to say hey. Who got caught in the rainstorm last night? I got caught one playing golf the other day. All right, we'll give it another minute and then we'll get rolling here. Okay. Looks like people can join as we go forward here too. So we got some more people coming on, but I want to respect everybody's time. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. This is Ask Dr. Eric. Again, we're doing one of these webinars every month. So I'd appreciate it if you would share it with your friends and family. This is really for everybody that we can't just get in one room at one of our workshops. The reason I'm doing these is I have a lot of questions from patients and I'd like to answer them for all of you. rather than just for one person, because a lot of people have chances are if one person has questions, then other people will as well. And, try to keep everybody on the same page coming out of the pandemic, and making sure we reclaim our health. That's what these are always about. And our mission is always life transformation. Pulling people out of the medical model and giving them answers for problems that they don't know have solutions. There's so many people that are suffering needlessly and really need our help. So when you get this, we're going to send you tomorrow. We're going to send an email out to everybody. It'll have the webinar recording on there. You can send that to anybody that you want. Invite them to the live webinars as well. We'd love to hear from those people. So as we get going, I got one thing I wanted to talk about before I answer any questions is something called the vagus nerve. I want to discuss this because it's super exciting research that was coming out right now about the vagus nerve and long COVID. So the vagus nerve, as you guys know, is my favorite nerve, the nerve of all nerves. I'll go through it a lot more in detail in a few minutes. But the vagus nerve, spelled V-A-G-U-S, not V-A-G-A-S. This is a nerve that is a cranial nerve, and you're just above your brainstem, right at the top part of your neck, that comes out and controls literally everything in your body. Okay, so I remember doing a dissection on the vagus nerve when I was in chiropractic school. We were doing cadaver dissections, and you can literally see when you're doing a dissection, there's a little thread that runs down your neck and then literally all the way down your body, and it branches off and controls every single thing in your body. It's called the parasympathetic nervous system. So it literally sets the tone for everything in your body, from your heart, your lungs, your liver, your kidneys, your stomach, your colon, all the way down to your digestive system is controlled by that cranial nerve. So what they're finding now is that people with long COVID symptoms, now long COVID symptoms are things like voice problems. People have a hard time swallowing, losing their sense of smell or sense of taste. That's long COVID. People that are really tired all the time from long COVID. I've had people losing their hair because of long COVID, high heart rate, low blood pressure. It could be high blood pressure, diarrhea. All these different things are called long COVID. And basically what they're finding is that the COVID virus or COVID vaccine. Okay. So I was just doing a lot of research on this, showing that because when you get the COVID vaccine, you still get the spike protein, and the spike protein is what causes damage to the vagus. It causes actual dysfunction of the vagus nerve. It somehow attacks the vagus nerve. So whether you had COVID or you got the COVID vaccine, you could still be having these long COVID symptoms, even if you've never had COVID. Some people got the vaccine, never got COVID, although a lot of them did. But it doesn't matter if you're exposed to COVID and the COVID spike, can cause this thing called long COVID. Okay. So what they're saying here is most long COVID subjects with vagus nerve dysfunction symptoms have a range of significantly clinically relevant structural and or functional alterations in their vagus nerve. That means that it actually causes swelling or degeneration or damage to the vagus nerve. And you can actually see it: nerve thickening, trouble swallowing, symptoms of impaired breathing, which is one of the problems with energy over time because of long COVID, or we call them long haulers. And we're saying that what they're saying is the vagus nerve is at the root of this thing. Now, how does the vagus nerve get damaged in the first place? Well, if you have COVID, or if you're exposed to the COVID spike protein, and you already have damage to this vagus nerve, that's when you're going to be more vulnerable. So people that are having smell and taste issues, people that are having a lot of sinus problems, these nerves also go to the sinuses and mucous membranes of the face. So when you have damage already to the vagus nerve through what does it say here? Forward head posture causes tension and stretched spinal cord and vagus nerve. This is from a medical website, by the way. I watched a great 2-hour YouTube video on this, a lot of it today, from a medical doctor saying, listen, I see this stuff all the time, and so much of it is mechanical disruption of the vagus nerve, and then you're vulnerable to long COVID as a result. So what they're now saying is that there's a solution to that, which I'll go through in a few minutes with you guys, which is vagus nerve stimulation. And they're saying vagus nerve stimulation actually is the solution to long COVID, which is really exciting. And I'll show you how that works in a few minutes. So the other reason I bring this up is because vagus nerve damage can also happen from things like two other things specifically. One is high blood sugar over time. So if you have high A1C levels, that can cause vagus nerve damage. High stress levels can cause vagus nerve damage, and then COVID, or COVID through mechanical disruption. So if I was going to tell you the three things you got to watch out with when it comes to damaging your vagus nerve, it would be high blood sugar, which we'll discuss tonight. It would be mechanical disruption of the vagus nerve, which is posture, which we'll talk about tonight. And then it's also high levels of stress. Okay. So we're going to teach you how to take care of that vagus nerve, and some of these questions will feed right into that. Okay. So one of the questions I got recently, and I got this from several different people, is which blood test do I need, and how do I make sense of them? So if you're going to the doctor to get your annual physical, or you're getting a checkup or whatever, how do you know which blood test to get? Now, I'm not a big fan of going to the doctor for an annual physical. I don't go to the doctor once a year because that's not sick care. That's not health care. That's sick care. That being said, I do look at blood work occasionally. So I don't think it's a problem getting blood work occasionally. I don't like people just neglecting their health and then going to the doctor once a year and acting like that's healthcare. Most of the people watching this right now, that's not really you. You probably go because you're curious about how your body's functioning. Now, there are a lot of tests that are functional tests that we can look at, and we can look at it from a functional medicine standpoint, and really to get a lot great information from the standard blood test you already get. But when most doctors look at these blood tests, they're not looking at them functionally. They're looking at them to determine whether or not they should put you on medications. That's usually going to be their solution. So the way I look at this is from a functional standpoint. So if you're going to get blood work, the ones that are important is just a standard panel, like a CBC with blood lipids and blood sugar. That's going to check your blood sugar. So it'll test your fasting glucose, which should be less than 100. Usually also test your A1C. A1C is an average over time, is a test of hemoglobin. So it's looking at what your blood levels are, blood sugar levels are over a longer period of time. That's your A1C level. Okay. That's a hemoglobin test. A1C is where they really tell you have diabetes. If it's above 7, then we'll say you have diabetes. If you're 6.5 or 6, it's pre-diabetes. If you're lower than that, then you're okay. But I'm here to tell you that if you're in that pre-diabetes 6 to 7 range, your vagus nerve is being damaged because you have high levels of blood sugar. High levels of blood sugar cause nerve damage, period. They cause peripheral neuropathy. They cause all kinds of things. So people get numbness and tingling in their feet, things like that. It's because their blood sugar levels are too high over a long period of time. So we can look at your A1C level to find out if that's happening to you. And if it is, guess what you do? You change your diet. You don't get put on diabetes meds. You change your diet. Okay. And we'll show you what to do with that tonight. We can also look at your blood lipids, which are cholesterol. So typically what they'll look for is LDL, total, HDL. Sometimes they'll look at, smaller, like different lipoproteins. They'll look at different density lipoproteins. But really the ones I need are total cholesterol, HDL, and triglycerides. Triglycerides are also blood lipids, which are just blood fats. Cholesterol is a blood fat, so is a triglyceride. And I'll go through what those levels need to be in a couple of minutes. So if you get your resting or your fasting blood sugar, which should be below 100, your A1C, which should be below 6, and your cholesterol, which I'll go through in a minute, you covered some pretty good bases there. Now they might find something else crazy. Sometimes they'll pick up disease that you wouldn't have known was there. But a lot of times the other tests, they're not going to show a whole lot unless there's a real overt disease, and then we can discuss that. Okay, should be able to hear me now. Okay, so that was my Wi-Fi issue, hopefully for the night. Hopefully we're done with that. So we'll get back going to it again here. Okay, so let me get back to this slide. The other one that's really important, a couple other tests that are really important are going to be vitamin D. Okay, getting your vitamin D or 25-OHD. We want to make sure that gets checked. That should be between 60 and 80. As a lot of you know, people say that our blood levels for like LabCorp, anything above 30 is considered normal. That's not even close to normal. Should be between 60 and 80 to make sure we're on the right track there. So you can always get that test. I recommend getting that test once a year. And then C-reactive protein. This is a marker of inflammation. So this can tell you a lot about how inflamed your body is. Okay. It can also tell you if you're having issues from like post-COVID or long COVID issues there, that will show up as elevated C-reactive protein, which is CRP. So if you get all of these, I can tell you a lot about your blood sugar and your cholesterol levels. If you get vitamin D, we can look at that. And if you get this, I can look at your inflammation levels, which really tell us a lot. So what we do with those is we look at them from a functional medicine standpoint, okay? A functional medicine standpoint, not just a sickness and disease medicine standpoint. So we always want to look at ratios, not reference ranges. So when you get a high or a low, it just says you have high blood sugar, you have high cholesterol, you have low LDL or HDL. We don't want to look at just reference ranges. We want to look at ratios, because the ratios will tell us a lot about how your body's actually doing. So the two numbers that are important when it comes to getting a cholesterol test, one of them is going to be triglycerides to HDL, and then total cholesterol to HDL. Your HDL is the one that's most important because that's your quote unquote good cholesterol. It's protective. It protects your body from oxidation. It keeps your arteries smooth rather than sticky, which causes heart disease and plaques and those types of things. Okay, that's where cholesterol can be quote unquote bad, is when it sticks to your arteries, while HDL keeps your arteries from being sticky. It actually cleans all of those arteries. So your triglycerides are fat in your blood, that are fat cells in your fat particles that are floating around in your blood. Those should be no more than double your HDL. Okay, so if you take your HDL and it's 50, your triglycerides should be no more than 100. Okay. Now, on the same level, if your HDL is 50, your total cholesterol should be no more than 200. So 4 times your HDL. Okay. So we're going to look at HDL and we're going to back up and look at what is an acceptable level and what's not. So if you have this person over here, again, this is why I don't believe in just high and low cholesterol. Person A over here has a total cholesterol of 237. Now, doctors would say, and drug companies would say, that's high, right? So they would say those are high levels of cholesterol. What I'm telling you, though, is those aren't high levels of cholesterol when it comes to your ratio. So if we look at 237, let's just look at, first of all, we'll do HDL to total first, right? If this person HDL is 102, what this says is that their total cholesterol could be 4 times that. Their total cholesterol could be 408, and they would still be fine, right? So they're only at 237. This person could easily be told by their doctor, hey, you need to go get put on statin drugs, which have all kinds of horrible side effects, memory, and all kinds of things. And there's no reason in the world, if people would just take an extra 5 minutes to read the blood work, which most doctors unfortunately don't have time to do or don't have the knowledge to do it. Now, triglycerides, let's look at your triglycerides to HDL. So HDL is 102, her triglycerides are only 56. She's in great shape. She could have triglycerides of 204 and she'd still be okay because she has high HDL. This is a real person, by the way, who was told she needed to be on cholesterol drugs, which is, to me, that's malpractice. There's no way this person should be on cholesterol drugs, because we look at these numbers here, which means she's in great shape. Her body's doing what it's supposed to be doing. This person over here, her total was only 167, right? So they would say, oh, you don't have high cholesterol, but look at her numbers here. Her triglycerides are 199 and her HDL is 39. So her triglycerides are supposed to be no more than double your HDL, right? So her triglycerides should be no more than 80. Hers are 199, which means she's got a lot of extra fat particles floating around the blood that cause stickiness of the arteries, cause damage to the brain, can lead to Alzheimer's disease and things like that. And then when we look at her total cholesterol should be no more than 4 times that. She's a little bit high there, but the big ratio here is HDL to triglyceride. Okay. So if you bring those numbers in, we can look at them for you and do the blood work for you, or do the math for you. And the majority of people that come in and say they have high cholesterol, especially our patients, when I look at their actual numbers, they don't need to do anything different because their other ratio numbers are in really good shape. Okay. So that's what's important to understand is the reference ranges. So how do you make sense of them? You can ask us. If you have high levels of A1C, you can change your diet. If you have high levels of resting or fasting blood sugar, you can change your diet. And I'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes here. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So those are the blood tests. When you do get your blood test, always bring them in. We're happy to read those for you because we're called Axiom Health Solutions for a reason, not just Axiom Chiropractic, because we want to provide real health solutions. Okay. Now, another question I had, best way to kickstart weight loss. And this is going to go back into the diet that I recommend in a couple of minutes. What I recommend for most people, if you're trying to kickstart weight loss or kickstart an eating plan, is what I call green smoothie cleanse. Now I'm going to include this graphic in the email that I send out tomorrow. It's going to come from me and you'll get this email or you'll get this specific cleanse and you'll get a couple other links that I'm going to have later on in the webinar. But what I do is a green smoothie cleanse. If you've just been eating poorly, if you've been traveling a lot of people had vacations all the way through, the summer, and they're like, I'm ready to get started on a good eating plan again and do it the right way and eat clean foods. Green smoothie cleanse is great because if you do a 3-day or so green smoothie cleanse, it cleans out your system. It helps to reset your metabolism. But then also, when this is over, a salad sounds really good, or something like, sweet potatoes and chicken and, chicken breast with some cocoa aminos sounds really good. So it really does reset things. It gets you over a lot of those sugar cravings. So what I do with the green smoothie cleanse, I'll make one green smoothie a day. So I'll do a big, Vitamix pitcher of green smoothies, and I just make one of these. So each one of these makes 3 servings. So I do the apple berry. It's a handful of spring greens mix, which you can get at King Supers or anywhere like that. We get the organic ones in a little plastic tub, and you just stick it in the blender. A couple handfuls of spinach, 2 cups of water, 1.5 cups of frozen blueberries, 1 banana, 1 apple, 1 packet of stevia, 2 tablespoons of ground flax seeds if you want to do that. And then I always add a scoop of the Dream protein, because that gives it some more protein, which is good, makes me stay full longer. So all of this and a scoop of protein, I blend it up. I drink 1/3 of it for breakfast, then I put the rest in a mason jar or 2 mason jars, and I'll do 1/3 for lunch and then another 1/3 for dinner. Now, the cool thing about this is you're doing smoothies, but you can also do some snacks in between. So you can snack on crunchy veggies like, bell peppers, carrots, celery, any of those things that you want to crunch on raw. Nuts like almonds, macadamia nuts, walnuts are really good. Hard-boiled eggs, and then apples. Specifically, Granny Smith apples are the best because they're a little bit lower in sugar. But what you're doing here is you're getting rid of any processed sugar. You're not eating any grain, which is a major problem for most people with sugar cravings or poor diet overall, is we're eating way too much bread and flour. So this is getting rid of sugar and flour, but you're not starving. Now, you'll probably lose weight. Most people in this 3 days lose 5 to 7 pounds because you're cutting calories a bit, but you're also not eating things that are making you inflamed, which are going to be sugar and flour. Okay, so it's a great way to restart your system and kickstart things in the right direction. So green smoothie cleanse is what I'd recommend. I had 3 people ask me that last week. What do I need to do to lose weight? Green smoothie cleanse is a good place to start. Now, for me, what I tend to eat, and the reason I eat that way is my goal is to decrease insulin and inflammation. Okay, those are the 2 I's that I want to avoid. Insulin is big from high blood sugar, because I just talked about that, damages your nerves and your brain. Inflammation also causes every disease under the sun. So if you take like what I eat for breakfast, I'll either do intermittent fasting, which means I don't eat breakfast. I'll skip that. I can do that if I'm eating a good diet because I'm not really hungry in the morning. But if I do want to eat breakfast, I'll usually do a smoothie, like one of the green smoothies I talked about, or like a berry blast smoothie that's in my cruise ship book, which is basically just almond milk or coconut milk, a scoop of protein powder, and some berries. And then I'll usually do like some almonds just to give it some fat as well. That's a great smoothie. Or I'll do an omelet. And typically an omelet for me will be, I'll put some butter in the pan. I'll do spinach, bell peppers, something like that. And then I'll put the eggs in there and a little bit of cheese. I usually try to use the raw cheddar cheese. And that's going to be my breakfast. Sometimes I'll have a couple strawberries with that, or a handful of blueberries as well. So that's a good breakfast. If you're eating like paleo or modified Mediterranean, this is very much that. Snack. If I'm hungry in the mid-morning, I'll do like a bar, some type of snack bar. I'll do like a Kind bar, something like that. I'll do a handful of nuts. Hard-boiled eggs are always a really good one. I just carry salt and pepper in a baggie, like if I'm on vacation, and I just dunk it in that. I'll do a paleo cookie or muffin that I've made from maybe the night before, or I'll try to make those once a week, some type of paleo muffin, which you can get on Paleo Grubs. If you go to Paleo Grubs and look at their website, they'll show you how to make everything that you want that has no sugar and no grain. So they'll use like almond flour and monk fruit instead of regular flour and sugar. Lunch, like maybe if I had chili the night before, I'll do leftovers. I'm a big leftovers person. I've been eating a lot of this sweet potato hash lately. I'll make a few sweet potatoes early on in the week, and then whatever meat we have for dinner, I'll put that into a hash the next day. So if my wife makes chicken, the sweet potato hash would be, I'll usually do like onions, spinach, broccoli, zucchini, anything that you want in there, and just saute that together. I use a little bit of paleo powder. You can use any kind of seasoning salt that you want. And then I'll put the potatoes, the baked potato, or the sweet potatoes in there, and I'll put the meat from the night before. And then I just stir that up, and it's almost like a stir fry. I'll eat that sometimes for lunch that day, and then breakfast the next day. If you add an egg to it, like a kind of runny egg, that's amazing for breakfast. Salad, I eat that a lot. So again, if we make any type of meat for dinner, we'll usually make extra. So I'll use the chicken from the night before or the steak from the night before, like I did today. And I made a salad with that. Okay. So, and typically my salad is going to be spring mix, spinach, a couple of handfuls of that. And then I'll do some raw carrots. I'll do some bell peppers, typically a handful of walnuts. I usually do some type of berry as well. Like I'll put some strawberries in there, maybe some blueberries, possibly some Granny Smith apples. And then I'll put the chicken on top. And then it's a really simple, my dressing is always just, it's avocado oil and balsamic vinegar. So really, really simple to eat. And I do that salad several times a week. Then dinner, usually some type of grilled protein or, baked. We'll make baked chicken breast sometimes or baked chicken on the bone. So whatever grilled fish or grilled protein that we want. And then some type of cooked veggie like broccoli or, sauteed spinach with garlic or, cauliflower, a lot of different things you could do there. And then we'll have usually some type of salad with that. And then if I'm hungry after dinner and I get a sweet tooth craving, then, one of the paleo cookies and then something like Lily's chocolate. So those are always great things for me to eat throughout the day. And somebody was telling me today, she took like a paleo diet, but she Darleneized it, she said, or Darleneized it, which is her name. I said, yeah, I've Dr. Eric Elias a lot of the things that I've read. I don't eat any one specific. I don't eat paleo or I don't eat keto or I don't eat, Mediterranean diet. Those are all good things. There's nothing wrong with them. And I used to, I've tried all of those for weeks and months and sometimes years at a time. But then you start to learn little principles from each one that work for your body. And that's what this looks like for me. But my goal is always to decrease insulin and inflammation. And if you're eating Mediterranean, especially modified Mediterranean, if you're eating paleo, if you're eating Whole30, that's going to be doing the same thing, reducing inflammation and insulin. So again, if you guys have any questions, pop those in the chat for me. And then otherwise I'll keep on trucking. I did want to share a couple of really cool stories. This is Kiara's mom, Tamisha, and she's doing amazing because she's actually gotten off of her blood pressure medication. She was stuck on blood pressure medications for years and years and years, had high blood pressure, and the doctors could never figure out why. Well, the problem was a subluxation in her neck. She had a loss of the curve in her neck. C1 is where your blood pressure centers are. We started getting that corrected. She did her home rehab. After we took her re-x-ray, she's actually off her blood pressure medications and her blood pressure is normal again after being told she had to live on those the rest of her life. She also made some of the changes that we're talking about. I think she did the green smoothie cleanse. She made some of those nutrition changes that I just talked about, reducing inflammation. And when you do those two things, blood pressure is a snap to correct. So I just want to say congratulations to her. I love seeing that. And I love, when people refer somebody in like that who really wants to take control of their health, I absolutely love that. So anybody that's dealing with blood pressure problems, tell them, get into the office. If they're somewhere else, I'll find them a chiropractor somewhere else. This is something that's a no-brainer to correct. All the research in Hypertension Magazine said chiropractic adjustments were more effective than 2-drug combination therapy. So HCTZ and lisinopril, the adjustments are more effective than those 2 drugs with none of the side effects. All right. I wanted to do this one. I'm going to do a whole webinar in a couple of months on flu. It's called Flu is Not a Season, and on how to really take care of your immune system going into cold and flu season. I hate those. I don't even like saying that, cold and flu season, because it happens. There's a lot of people who get the cold and flu during the summer, right? So you can get these viruses at any times. They're more likely when we're inside a lot. We have low vitamin D levels, which tends to be the winter. But now we're going to have cold, flu, and COVID season because it's sticking around. COVID's not going anywhere. It's going to be endemic, just like it already is endemic. It's going to be like the seasonal cold or whatever. So you want to be taking care of your immune system. I'm going to do a whole workshop on that coming up here, a whole webinar. Now, in terms of, do I need a flu shot? I think most people on the line would say no. I will never, ever, is that enough evers, ever get a flu shot in my life. The reason is because when I look at any type of medical intervention, I'm looking, is it safe or is it effective? Is it safe and effective? Well, here's your answer to that. Is it effective? So if we look at the CDC statistics on flu shot effectiveness, the most it's ever been effective is 60% in 2010. The least it's ever been is 19% in 2014 and 15, and it usually hovers around 30-40% effectiveness. If you go on over here, this was like 32 and 31. So it's about 30% effective. What they say with but if you're taking vitamin D is virtually, it's like 90% effective to prevent colds and flus. That's what the Journal of Epidemiology says. Exercise, far more effective at boosting your immune system. Getting adjusted, taking care of your immune system, There's a study out of NYU that looked at people that got adjusted versus people with cancer, and then just, regular people. And they found that people that got adjusted had a 400% better immune system than people with cancer, and a 200% better immune system than just everybody else. So getting adjusted, taking vitamin D, avoiding sugar, far more effective than a flu shot. Now, second thing, is it safe? The answer to that is absolutely not. It's not safe. And it has mercury in it, which has a cumulative effect on your brain long-term, which is a big thing for like Alzheimer's disease. But then also down here, adjudicated settlements. These are actual vaccine court settlements, and the people that actually got a settlement because the flu shot or whatever vaccine that they got caused this problem. Okay. And it was ruled on, and these people got paid for it. And if you look at these, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the top 11 are flu shots, right? So this person got a stroke from the actual vaccine. This person got a skin reaction because of vaccine. This person got Guillain-Barré, which is a paralysis from the vaccine. This person had a heart problem from the vaccine. So is it safe? You could say, well, that just happened to a few people. What I just told you is there's other safe natural things that are far more effective. Why would I go get a flu shot? That's that's for me and my own body. I wouldn't do that, because I also know that there's no shortcut to being healthy. We want to make sure we get you healthy. And the way to avoid getting the flu or cold or something like that is have a strong immune system. The way I do that is I get adjusted, I avoid sugar, and I take my vitamin D. Again, we're going to have a whole webinar coming up on that in just a little bit as well. So keep your eye out for that. Okay. This is another, I'm going to get into some more on the vagus nerve in a minute, but I wanted to lead it off with Michelle. So this is Dr. Ash with Michelle. Michelle came to see us because she had all of the symptoms that I'm about to discuss here of long COVID. Okay. So if you remember, we talked about problems like voice problems called dysphonia, dysphagia, difficulty swallowing, dizziness, rapid heart rate, low blood pressure, diarrhea. All of those things are caused by the damage to the vagus nerve from COVID. Well, she had COVID, and then she sings in her church, so she couldn't sing in her choir anymore. She couldn't swallow, which every time she went to eat, she would just freak out because she felt like she was choking on everything. Imagine that, like you're hungry, you want to eat, and you feel like you're choking on everything, you can't swallow. And this had been going on for months and months and months and months. And the doctors told her, hey, there's really not much we could do about it. And she came in to see me. She's like, there's got to be a solution. And there is a solution. When we found, the problem in her neck, she had lost that curve, like so many people, from sitting on a computer too much. We started correcting the curve in her neck that we discussed in the first slide there. And guess what happened to her symptoms? She can sing again. She can eat again. She can swallow again. She can drink water. She can do all the things that she's always been able to do her whole life, because she started getting adjusted and started getting the vagus nerve stimulation. So the way that we did that, what they found is that you can do what's something called non-invasive vagal nerve stimulation. So they take a device and actually hold it up to your neck and like shock your vagus nerve. And they found that those people who did that, so it says scientists propose the cause of symptoms and then treatment for long COVID. When they do that vagus nerve stimulation, all of these things work better, because this is your vagus nerve, comes off your brainstem here. So this is your vagus nerve right here. Okay. That's cranial nerve 10. And watch where this thing goes. It goes to your heart. It goes to your lungs. It goes to your liver. It goes to your gallbladder. It goes to your spleen, your pancreas, your small, large intestine, your kidney, your bladder, all of your reproductive organs down here. All of those things are affected by your vagus nerve. Okay. So if you have underlying damage to the neck, you can have any problems with this, whether you've had COVID or not. This can cause damage like forward head posture, loss of curve in the neck. That's why that causes increased risk of heart disease. That's why it can cause things like AFib or arrhythmias. These nerves go to the lungs. So that forward head posture decreases your vital lung capacity, which can cause fatigue, breathing problems, which I see people, heal from all the time when they start getting adjusted, because we are stimulating the vagus nerve in a much more effective way than an external vagus nerve stimulator that costs thousands of dollars if you go, do a treatment there. A chiropractic adjustment stimulates the vagus nerve. That's what that neck adjustment does, whether we do it manually or with an instrument. Same thing here, the nerves that go to the lungs or the gallbladder, the stomach. That's why I see so many people get better with things like acid reflux, because if the vagus nerve is damaged, you don't have anything telling your stomach to stop making stomach acid, so you make too much stomach acid. If the vagus nerve is damaged, these nerves go to the colon down here. So I see people with like ulcerative colitis or irritable bowel syndrome, IBS, a lot of digestive problems. Constipation is another one. When it comes, so people think IBS is just diarrhea. It's not. It's constipation and diarrhea a lot of times. And that is because of damage to the vagus nerve. Well, what you do when you get adjusted is your vagus nerve is working better. And you can see it controls all of those things here. So what they're saying is like, hey, the solution to long COVID is vagus nerve stimulation, which would mean get adjusted, just like Michelle did, right? Other solution to vagus nerve or to long COVID would be reducing inflammation levels, which is if you're eating the way that I told you to eat, that's what we see. So the reason that we're so passionate about getting out there is because, you know, there's so many people that have no idea even their COVID type symptoms are happening because of damage to the neck, which is the first thing I went through in the original slide there. They said forward head posture causes vagus nerve damage. And then that on top of COVID, on top of that, throws things over the edge. So the solution is get your vagus nerve working again so these problems go away. So next week we're doing, it's called You're Back to School. So we're actually, anybody that you know that has any of these problems that I just discussed, you can refer them in and they get their exam and x-ray, because that's how you tell if there's vagus nerve issues, by the neck x-ray. You could tell that through that. And what we do is instead of normal $150 to $200, we're doing that for just back to school school supplies. So if somebody brings in school supplies, we're actually going to donate those to the people that need our help in the same amount as we would be for someone getting coming in and paying cash. So all they got to do is bring us a bag or two of school supplies, and then we'll do a full exam, and then we'll see what they need from there, which is awesome. So if you know anybody that needs our help, that's the time to do it. Next week, sending them in all next week, which I think is the 15th, August 15th through the 19th. So anybody you know that just has any of the things I just mentioned there, heart problems, lung problems, smell problems, taste problems, sinus issues, fatigue, whether it's from COVID or not, then we can help those people. But almost everybody knows somebody or 5 or 10 people with long COVID symptoms. Well, they're saying vagus nerve stimulation is the solution there. Well, that's what we do. So who do you know that has those things? Those are the people we want you to keep an eye out for. Okay, another question. This is, again, reducing inflammation. What are the best drinks to avoid sugar? And then do sugar alternatives cause a sugar rush or a sugar crash? I got that from a patient. It's like, if I give this to my kids or grandkids, and if I make Christmas cookies, is it going to cause them to have a sugar rush or a sugar crash? The answer to that is absolutely not, because there's really no such thing as a sugar crash or sugar rush. It's a blood sugar rush, and sugar alternatives like monk fruit and stevia have no effect on your blood sugar. Okay, so it doesn't cause any of those things. Now, the best drinks to avoid sugar, I put a few of these together. So the one I drink a lot of, I'm not making like LaCroix, I do vitamin water zero. So vitamin water is zero sugar, and it's sweetened with erythritol. Okay. Erythritol is a sugar alcohol like xylitol that has no blood sugar effects and safe and natural. So I use that all the time. Bai, which is another drink. These are a little sweet for me, because so what I'll usually do is do like half a bottle of it, and then I'll mix it with some water and put ice in it. And that's perfect for me that way. I don't like a ton of sweet, but this is also sweetened with either monk fruit or erythritol. If you want to control the sweetness levels, you can do like LaCroix. This is peach pear, and I put a couple of drops of monk fruit or a couple of drops of liquid stevia in there. These are going to be my alternatives, because sometimes I get tired of drinking water. I'm drinking water right now, but sometimes I get tired of that, and I'll go with one of these instead. But to answer the question, sugar alternatives like monk fruit, stevia, or xylitol are fine for kids. They don't cause a sugar rush. If you do xylitol too much, xylitol can cause a little bit of stomach upset. That's why I recommend monk fruit and stevia are kind of my go-tos there. Okay, hitting the home stretch here. So this one is on genes. And this came from a lot of questions that I got on, hey, my mom has X. Does that mean I'm going to have X? My mom has, or I see it all the time. My mom has high blood pressure, so I have that. Or my dad had this, so I have, I'm going to have that problem too. So you do inherit genes from your parents, but genes do not control your health. Okay. The lie is your genes control your health, but that's not the truth. Your lifestyle actually controls your genes. This is a whole field called epigenetics. So if you have any bad genes in your family, like people have died of heart disease, cancer, or Alzheimer's or something like that, do you need to pay attention to it? Yes. But what you can do about it is lifestyle changes. So some of you have heard me talk about this before. This is the best experiment on epigenetics I've ever seen. This is the agouti rat right here. Okay. So these rats are overweight, and they get diabetes and die early. Okay. It's called the agouti gene. So there's a agouti gene defect that this rat is born with, and it causes it to get diabetes, and it's a big fat overweight rat, and it has diabetes and has a lifespan that's like 30% less than the other rats. But what they did was they took the mother, which is this rat right here, and they injected, they passed the agouti gene on. But because when they were pregnant, we gave them methyl-rich foods, B12 and folate, okay, methyl B12 and methylfolate, so it added a chemical switch that dimmed the gene's deleterious effects, which means because the mother got healthy foods when she was pregnant, the baby, which is this rat right here, never ended up looking like that. It never ended up getting overweight and having diabetes. It lived a long, normal life. Even though it had the same exact genes, the lifestyle of the mother even changed the baby. Now, if you continue feeding the baby methyl B12 and methylfolate, never going to have that problem, right? So if you're eating a healthy diet, it can turn off a lot of the bad genes that you got. For instance, like the BRCA gene, I'm going to cover, we're doing a whole workshop on that coming up here called epigenetics. Your DNA isn't your destiny. So I'll talk about that in a minute, but that's going to be our next live workshop that we do in next month, where we're going to have everybody there. And it's going to be on epigenetics. And I'm going to give you the 5 most damaging genes that you could have gotten from your parents, and then what you can do to turn those genes off or dim the effects of those genes. One of those is the BRCA gene, BRCA1 and 2. That's a breast cancer gene. And they're like, oh, if you have that from your mom and your dad, there's like an 80% likelihood that you're going to get breast cancer. But what they're not telling you is that if you take vitamin D and your vitamin D levels are between 60 and 80, it virtually cancels out the effect of the BRCA gene, right? That causes all the cancer. So we're going to tell you a lot more about that on how you can take these specific genes. There's another one called ApoE4, which is a gene that can tell you whether or not you could develop Alzheimer's disease. So if you have any of these things that run in your family, there's tests that you can do to find out about these genes. But even more important than that, you can just assume you have all of these genes and start making the changes that so many people need to make to change their health, right? So that's going to be coming up. It's called Epigenetics. Your DNA is not your destiny. That's going to be Thursday, September 15th. We're doing it on a Thursday, and we're doing it at the Smoky Hill Library. I know most people on this probably already come to the workshops in person as well. It's going to be at the Smoky Hill Library, which is right down the road, about a mile from us. We used to do them there years ago. 4 years we were in those rooms. The church, One Life Church, just moved, and I think we'll be doing them again at the new church location, which is even closer to our office. It's just right down the road where Edge Church used to be, literally, I don't know, a quarter mile from us. But they're in the process of moving. So we're going to do the next one at the Smoky Hill Library on the 15th. You'll be hearing a lot more about that. Those are ones I want you to bring somebody to. And the reason is because people understand that. They understand, oh, I have bad genes. I want to learn what to do about it. Well, you can help them learn what to do about it at this. And we're going to give you foolproof lifestyle things that you can do to change that. One other thing I did want to tell you about is we have the Raw Fitness 30-day challenge coming up. We work with Raw Fitness. They're right down where the church is, where we do the workshops, right in that same plaza next to Home Depot over by Southlands. They're doing a 30-day challenge. And this is really cool. Tiffany was telling me about this. So if you've kind of gone off the rails on vacation and you're ready to get back serious about your health and your fitness, they're doing a 30-day transformation challenge. Intake dates are going to be August 23rd and 25th. So coming up in a couple of weeks. And then they're going to do August 27th at 10:30. First day of the challenge is going to be the 29th. They give you exactly what to eat. They give you all, you can exercise at their gym as much as you want throughout the entire 30 days. And this, what's really cool here is it's a 6-week challenge. It's $197 for new people like you guys watching. But when you lose 20 pounds or 5% body fat, which most people should do easily with this, you'll receive that back either as credit towards a membership at the gym or product or supplements that you need to take anyway. So it's a no-brainer. I love that they're doing that. Challenge includes unlimited boot camp classes. So you can go to all of their classes. They'll teach you how to work out safely. You can modify all of the workouts that they do. It's high intensity interval training, which I love. Talks about your nutrition. And they give you an actual diet plan to follow, accountability from the staff and from previous challengers. I've seen people really, the last person I talked to, I think lost like something like 22 pounds and was able to keep it off because they made all of these changes. So those are the next couple of opportunities. We love Raw Fitness. They're great. I'll send a link to the next, in the email, I'll send a link to where you can sign up for that. There's a great website where you can get on there. You can just sign up online. And again, if you lose the 5% body fat or 20 pounds, then you get the money back towards something else, which is awesome. I think it's great. And even if you don't, $197, unlimited boot camps and nutrition, and everything else, I think is an absolute steal. So those are the next couple of things we have coming up. We're going to do another workshop or another webinar also in September. I'm not sure of the date yet based around this workshop here. And we're going to do one to really roll out the new nutrition program that we have coming up. So just super excited about some things that we have coming up in the future as well. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask those in the chat. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up in just a minute here. So anything is fair game at this point that we didn't cover tonight. Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. So again, just a couple of things that we have coming up. We have the back to school, or your back for school, next week. So anybody you refer in, we'll do the entire examination for just a bag or two of school supplies that we're going to give to underprivileged kids. That's anybody that you know that needs help. Like there's so many people that are sick and suffering and don't know any better. Like all those patients that I showed you that have a high blood pressure or long COVID symptoms or migraine headaches. I had a patient who hasn't had a migraine headache since we started adjusting her about 6 months ago now. First 6 months of her life that she's had migraine free, just because someone like you told her about chiropractic. So appreciate you guys doing that and telling the people what you know. So any questions, go ahead and type it in the chat here. And if we don't have any of those, then we will wrap it up. All right. All right, guys, I think that's it. Thanks for being on. If you have any questions, go ahead and submit those more in the future. We'd be happy to help you walk through those, wade through those. We're here to provide solutions for any problems that you're having. So you have my email, Dr. Ash's email as well. Send those along to us, bring them to us in the office, because we'll always be doing a component of Q&A on these webinars as well. So thanks for being on tonight, everybody. I appreciate you guys. And I hope hopefully you learned some things tonight that can really cause some life transformation opportunities for you.